This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Dude, I haven't eaten since like 8 o'clock last night.
Oh, you know what, Big O? I had to eat. I like boned up at breakfast here because I'm flying on the red eye on the way out, me and Coronas. And so, so I figured I probably won't have a decent meal till tomorrow morning. So, the airport, who knows? That's hit and miss.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, bro. But I just hadn't eaten. And then when I saw the hot dogs at the stadium, I was like, no. So I held back. But I got to say, I saw Marcel with 3 hot dogs.
It's free, baby. It's free, Big O. Actually, breakfast was really good. They had a omelet bar and all. Yeah, breakfast was good, man.
They told me that you have to go there for breakfast, not lunch. Breakfast is the bomb. But I just want to tell Marcel that he's a heavy hitter. He bats cleanup. He ate 3 dogs. That he bats cleanup, bro.
Hey, he might pay a price. He might pay a price for that later on. But hey, more power to him. Right?
That's a brave man with 3 hot dogs. Oh man, he stacked them up there. All right, Perk. I got off the McDaniel bandwagon last week. This is Cam Cameron part 2, my brother. Is what I. Not only that. Not only is it Cam Cameron part 2. We have Tannehill Thompson at quarterback because poor Skyler, he has no pocket presence either. He is from the Tannehill genes. There's no doubt about that.
Well, Big O, let me talk you in off this ledge here. Now, I have been a critic of the Mike McDaniel offense since midway through 2022, actually since December when they came back from that West Coast trip after losing to San Francisco and to the Chargers. But because I've always said this offense is about 2 things, Tyreek and the threat of Tyreek. And today, Tyreek had, 5 targets? If you take Tyreek out of this offense, then what? I don't care who's at quarterback or, who you have at running back or whatever, the way that this team is constructed, there's just not much more after Tyreek that can beat you. They can run up some yards on the ground. They can get some yards in the air. But when it actually comes to putting touchdowns on that scoreboard, they're hard-pressed to do it, and I think that that's the big problem with the Mike McDaniel offense is that after Tyreek, there's not much there, and that's what we've seen since he got injured last year in that Tennessee game. Granted, the next week they did outscore the Jets 30-0, but that's a one-off, right? They scored 70 points without Jalen Waddle. Without a big contribution from Tyreek, this offense really doesn't have anything else, and teams have caught on to that, and that's what we've seen since that Tennessee game.
And by the way, EJD Construction can help you out in Dade and Broward County, so make sure you call my guy Eric if you're looking to remodel your home or business, 305-433-4843 for custom home construction. Please call Eric at 305-433-4843. And, for me right now, Perk, I was talking about this before you came on. I used to always use the Shula stuff, right? Adjusting to all that. I get to use Spo now because for me, Spo is the young Shula that will adjust to any kind of offense, any kind of thing going on, any kind of adversity. Spo is a master at getting the best out of that situation. And, you've been on those beats. You understand. You've seen that man in action. And to me, that's my problem right now is I'm seeing a coach that is in over his head and all the penalties and the mistakes. Where Thompson bobbles that ball and then they still recover the fumble, that play got in late. It starts with that. And dude, we're into year 3. And you still can't get a play in on time, and you've got a backup quarterback, bro. Your responsibility as a coach is to make his life the easiest possible, and you're just making it harder on him. So that's where I'm at a point now where I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel with Mike McDaniel 2+ years in, and I just don't see any examples of him really coaching through stuff like this.
I think they need a change of strategy and a change of philosophy in that, look, I've said this before that you needed to keep a guy such as Chris Brooks, maybe not Chris Brooks specifically, but somebody who has some muscle in that backfield, right? I thought they were on the right path with the tight ends. They have been going to the tight ends. Tua missed Julian Hill last week. Durham Smythe can't maintain the ball this week. It was a decent throw, but that's asking a lot of Durham to make that catch. He's not that type of a guy.
Don't put him in that position.
Well, yes, I agree with you, but that's kind of what you've done with this roster. And look, Mike McDaniel made the shopping list. Chris Greer shopped for the groceries. So I think that when you look at roster construction, it's a 50-50 thing. These are Mike McDaniel's players. That Chris Greer isn't getting these players on his own.
Everybody's going down. Everybody's to blame here, unfortunately.
Right. That's exactly right.
And look, as much as I like the front office, they're not going to get a chance to hire a third coach. So they're not really going to go out and find another quarterback because then that would also look bad on them. So what they're trying to do is survive for these next 4 weeks to get Tua back, because that's the only thing that's going to save all their asses is if Tua comes back. But here's the problem. I think what you're realizing now is that Tua overcame Flo, and I think he's overcome McDaniel. Whereas, McDaniel's made a lot of maybe McDaniel pumped him with a lot of love and confidence, but when it came to playing, it's not McDaniel. It's Tua that makes his own plays. We look at McDaniel. He doesn't make a difference for anybody else, and that tells me that. I mean, the first year, his rookie year, Tua was 7-3 with Flo. 7-3, and that offense was terrible. I mean, that didn't even have Waddle that year. That was a bad offense. They had nothing in that first year, and you still went 7-3. I mean, that's pretty damn good. And so to me, it shows that sometimes the players can overcome the coaching. And it's like Jalen Ramsey a couple of weeks ago going from one sideline to another and making an amazing play on that run. It's not the player, it's not the coach, it's the players that have gotten you where you're at. To me, McDaniel is not a guy that makes a difference in players' lives.
I think he does, Big O. I think Mike McDaniel is generally a different coach, but when I talk about a change in strategy and philosophy, all that we're talking about here is offense, quarterback, McDaniel. You got to have a defense. You've got to have a run game. You've got to have special teams. You've got to be built as a team, not as some offensive, high-scoring, entertaining juggernaut.
You're right overall. Today, we can't pick on the defense. They kept them at 17 points into the fourth quarter, and it's like, bro, if you can't produce any points, how many more – you know what that reminded me of? The Jason Taylor years.
Yeah, where Orlando Murray was kicking. Yeah.
And then eventually the defense broke because you just kept riding them, and they weren't that kind of defense. They were never going to be that Ravens-like defense or anything. They were really good, but not super dominant like that.
But, Big O, this team, to me, under McDaniel, has always been built offense. We're going to score. We're going to outscore you. It's not built like Philly or Baltimore or San Francisco, where, look, San Francisco, Big O, they have studs on both sides of the ball. And, and look at Kansas City, studs on both sides of the ball and at kicker. Yeah. You've got to build a better mousetrap, right? That all they focus on is speed here with the Dolphins, and it's biting them in the butt right now. That like last year, when they hired Vic Fangio and traded for Jalen Ramsey, I was really, really excited, Big O. I thought now finally they get it, that it can't be all speed on offense. You need a defensive guru, you need a defensive stud, and you need to keep on building on that side of the ball. But it didn't quite follow through. You have the injuries to Phillips and to Chubb, and then AVG leaves, and Christian Wilkins doesn't get re-signed, and Xavier Howard is gone, and so now a lot of the guts of that defense is gone, and you really don't have what you need on that side of the ball, and it can't pick up the offense. They did have 2 turnovers today, right, with Sealer and Cater Kohu.
Yeah.
You got to be able to score when you're inside the 6, right, 2 times today. But they can't, and the defense did its job, but the defense has to do a little bit more, and the special teams have to do a little bit more. But it has to be constructed in that way that the offense isn't always going to score 30. And again, I know that your defense has two turnovers today, But I'm sorry, defense. You just have to do a little bit more some days. Special teams. Braxton Berrios has that long kickoff return, which was probably the biggest play when the Dolphins had possession of the ball.
Yeah.
But somehow you've got to do a little bit more everywhere.
But that's where we can't blame that. We can't blame that part on the defense. They had
no. I'm not. I'm not blaming.
Yeah. Today I'm gonna give Weaver and the boys a break. Today I got to give them a break because to me what stood out was the incompetence on offense, bro. I mean, you just nailed it right there, dude. You're twice inside, not just the red zone, bro.
Right.
You're inside the 10 twice.
Yep.
I mean, bro, that's pathetic.
Yep.
That you can't score.
Can't come away with a single touchdown. You got a field goal out of those 2 possessions, Big O. But look, Big O, sometimes the defense has to carry. Look, just like when the offense scores 30 and 40 and like they're carrying you. Defense did a really good job. The defense has done a good job all year, Big O, right? You only allow 17 in the first game.
The first couple games and the run had hurt them a little bit.
It did. They got over 100 both games. But look, even last game, they allowed 24 points because you had the pick 6. I mean, 24 that's right on the cusp. But you're at home. Your offense ought to be able to win. But it's all about complementary football, and some days the defense has to do more. I'm not blaming the defense. They did good, but some days the defense has to win a game for you, and it's not built that way right now.
Where do they go from here, Perk? Because I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel at all. I mean, I see 1-5 by the time Tua gets back. So what are you hearing? Is there any rumblings in the background there? I mean, where do you go from here?
Well, it's the cliche of they've got to dig deep and find it. And look, this team has had a good mentality, Big O, through the 2 years ago, the Tua injuries last year, that big injury wave of Jerome Baker and Phillips and Chubb and AVG and everybody that got injured. This team keeps a good mentality. It's just, can you find a way to score enough points to win a game? That's where you go from here, Big O. You've got to scrap and you've got to find a way to win games, whether it's, 30 runs this week and then the next week it's a defensive touchdown and 3 turnovers. You've got to find that secret sauce somehow. And like I've said, I don't think it's going to be one overarching thing. Like the previous 2 years, you won with that passing game and that high scoring offense and Tua. This time, I think you've got to mix and match, specific to an opponent, specific to who's healthy, specific to who's playing well that week or that day. That's what you've got to do. Like the way that you beat Tennessee might not be the same way you beat Arizona, but you've got to find ways to do it. Just this outscoring teams, we know that's not going to work with Tim Boyle and Skylar Thompson. So what can this team do? Can you be scrappy? Can you be resourceful? Do you have that in you? That's what we're going to find out with this team. I think that they've got enough to stay at 500 for X amount, 4 weeks.
If you had a real coach, yeah.
But I'm not. But Big O, I'm not. Look, again, I've been very suspicious of this offense, right? And everybody was telling me the last 2 years.
It's not so much the offense. It's the coach, not the offense. The coach. The coach is not a good coach. He doesn't really. To me, he's the kid that took his dad's Ferrari and then he realized, oh shit, this has got a lot of power. Oh, the tree. Boom, and he wrapped it right around the tree. That is Mike McDaniel right now. He's a play designer. He's not even an offensive coordinator. He doesn't. I mean, what would you have done early in the game? Do you kick that 56-yard field goal, or do you go for the 4th and short and run it?
I'm going for the 4th and short. That's the way that this team ought to be able to do that, Big O. But you don't have the Alec Ingold. I mean, you're going to run Achane. I mean, you don't have that many options. You need a hammer back there. You need a Chris Brooks type physical runner. And you didn't equip your team with that. Your team does not have the necessary tools to go out there and win games the way it needs to right now.
It's a finesse team. It's a Rams-like team. It's a Rams-like team that it's
100%. 100%, Big O. You're trying to out-finesse a physical sport. And those 99 Rams are the only ones that have been able to do it. The greatest show on turf. That's it. There's a reason for that you've got to have some physicality. And I think I wouldn't say that McDaniel is inadequate as a coach. I would say that he did not construct this team correctly. He thought that we can outrun and out-finesse everybody, and teams are just looking at him and laughing and going, you can't outrun us. Like, we're just as fast as you are, and we have more muscle. And now what are you going to do? And that's what's facing the Dolphins now. It's that this construction of the team, it's biting them in the butt. And now how do you react? Well, you've got to be resourceful and you've got to be scrappy. These aren't going to be aesthetically beautiful victories. The beautiful passes to Tyreek and to Jalen Waddle and everybody cheering and throwing roses at your feet. This is going to be some ugly, scrappy 1970s football. Do you have that in you?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. By the way, speaking, because you talked about the Titans, and I'm sure Will Levis is looking forward to seeing Miami next week, because that's probably the last time he actually played well. And so, but here's the other thing. You just mentioned the Rams. They won that Super Bowl by a yard against the Titans,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
So,
Dyson, right? Yeah.
Even the greatest show on turf barely won the Super Bowl on 1 yard.
Yep. Yep,
So,
exactly. It's a hard way to win that the Dolphins have chosen. And listen, I will say this about Mike McDaniel as a coach. I've said it before. He's different, right? He truly cares about building a better person than as much as building a better player. But unfortunately, Big O, that's not going to win you any games. Like, I appreciate Mike McDaniel being different. He genuinely, truly cares about these players. But that's not going to get you any victories. That's a separate issue. I'm not going to rip him as a coach, but I will blame him again for the construction of this team. What Mike McDaniel is doing is different, right? He believes in player empowerment, and he believes they want to win Super Bowls. They want to work hard, but Mike McDaniel leaves it to the players to define what hard work is. And Flores and Pat Riley and Don Shula and all these other guys are right on top of you, making sure that you work hard. And these are, I think that McDaniel is a good coach. It's how he's approaching the job and how he's built this team. That's where I find fault and take exception with Mike McDaniel.
Folks, Chris Perkins just told you it's better to be the Kansas City Chiefs, who have much more players getting arrested than the Miami Dolphins, because it leads you to championships. Okay, so there you go.
What's more important to you?
Yeah, exactly. So you get more arrests, you get more rings. So the cuffs turn into rings. We make them smaller and they become rings all of a sudden. So
gotta work for the Cowboys back in the day, right? Yeah,
exactly. It works. It worked for the Raiders too. It's
right. Exactly.
Alabama.
Yeah.
Hey, our buddy in Florida, Stanky Fingers. It worked for him. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. So I know you're not working on stories about Stanky Fingers, but what you are working at the Sun Sentinel?
Yeah, well, obviously I'm going to try to do something on Mercury Morris and the 72 Dolphins later on in the week. Very sad that Merck passed away. But as far as this team, Big O, it's really got to be the resourcefulness and the scrappiness. Like, how do you score more than 3 touchdowns when you have Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle out there? That's really what I'm going to be working on and focusing on is really trying to find a solution. And I don't have the answers right now, Big O. Hopefully I'll have them in a couple of days, but you're really, really, really asking a lot out of this roster as it's currently constructed, because it is not constructed for what it's going to face and what it is facing now and for the next few weeks.
I'm with you there. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Chris Perk, and better yet, catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Perk, safe travels on that red eye, my brother. We're taking off tomorrow at 1.
Good deal. Good to see you today. I couldn't talk to you too much, Big O. I was just, I was swamped in the press box, but we'll see each other again soon, I'm sure.
I respect that. I know exactly what you're doing, my man. All good, baby. Thank you, my man.
All right, Big O.
There you go. And, of course, Chris Perkins, our EJDconstruction.com Miami Dolphins postgame report. And, of course, when you are talking fully insured and liability, that's EJD Construction. That way, if they go work on your property and anyone gets hurt, you're not going to get sued. So make sure if you hire somebody, they are fully insured, like EJD Construction, Dade, Broward counties. They've been doing this for a long, long time. AAA rating from the Better Business Bureau. Call Eric. This is his personal cell number, 305-433-4843.
is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.